Alright guys, first off I'm going to say that this episode of Rotten Reviews is truly going to have a rotten film. Truly, truly rotten. And that would be 2018's film Escape Plan 2 Hades. It has an 8% on the tomato meter and a 14% on the audience score. Those are pretty rotten numbers. Do they sound exaggerated? They might, but they're not. This film is truly, truly rotten. And Escape Plan 2 Hades is a desperate attempt at a cash grab by milking everybody's goodwill that actually enjoyed the first Escape Plan movie. Now, let's take a look at the first movie from 2013. Escape Plan, 50% on the tomato meter and 55% on the audience score. Very close to not being rotten. However, it's still rotten, but it was enjoyable, and its biggest draw, of course, was that you had Sylvester Stallone and Arnold Schwarzenegger together, and it's no better than an 80s action movie set in 2013, but it was enjoyable, and a lot of people might even argue that it didn't deserve to be rotten, depending on your taste. Now, however, 5 years later, Escape Plan 2 Hades, it looks like something that's, it's not only made to go directly to video and just to rip off the name Escape Plan, but its budget is minuscule compared to the first. In fact, it is so low budget that I would say that this could have been actually just financed by Stallone or one of the other actors in his group in this film. It could have been just one of their own pet projects because that's how low budget it is. In fact, they would have been able to afford something much better than this. That's how low budget that this is. It has Sylvester Stallone and, well, look at that, Juan Bautista, who is better known as, the character in Guardians of the Galaxy. He's better known as Drax. And here, I don't even know what his name is because it's that bad. Escape Plan 2, let's go right into the audience reviews and see what people have to say. We have one from November 29, 2019, making it about a month old. 1 star, Nigerian movies have better VFX than this thing. Half a star, absolutely horrible, horrendous, atrocious, and a completely low-budget film that tanked on a nuclear level. Do not watch this, it sucks. I'll agree with those. In fact, I'll also give this half a star, maximum half a star, because a movie was made and somebody got paid. I'm sure this made a profit. That's how low budget it is, and that's probably why it was made, just a cheap cash grab to make a profit. Who cares if it pissed off anybody that tried to see this, that paid money for it in some regard? Who cares, because by then you have their money. Pretty sad, pretty low and pretty sad. You see a lot of this on horror films and B-movie sci-fi type material, sci-fi channel type material, but this thing is just, it's got Sylvester Stallone's face right on the front, and he's in the film. It's not just using clips of him taken out of the first movie. He's in this film, and this film was shot specifically to create a trailer, and that trailer, if you watch that trailer, you will find that that looks like it's a decent film. The trailer was shot to make you put down your money and rent this thing or purchase it. I don't know. It wasn't a theatrical release that I'm aware of, so it was definitely intended to be a rental or a purchase. You can find this on streaming. I believe it's still streaming on Amazon Prime. It's included in Amazon Prime membership. It may be elsewhere. In any case, you better do it for free. If you bother to sit through this, do it for free, because if you watch the trailer, you'll see what looks like quite a promising action movie, and then when you watch the movie, you will find out that almost everything that was done in the movie was just done so that it could be edited and put into that trailer. So it's a complete cash grab. Shameless all the way down the line. I do actually have a list of stuff about how bad this is. Yeah, it almost appears to be a movie that was made for China. It was made to convince people in China to purchase this or rent it. more of a priority for China than America, certainly, because it features a lot of Asian Chinese actors, and it appears to be set there too as well. I don't know if it is, but it appears that it is. And so this seems like something they were trying to convince Chinese moviegoers to put money down on. I doubt this would fool many Americans, so I'm putting my money on China. There's just too many little things in this film that point me in that direction. But let's continue on with the Rotten reviews. October 28th, 2019. Half a star. This doesn't deserve a full star rating. This is awful film from beginning to end. What a crap film. This is without a doubt that this is the worst film that Stallone has ever starred in, and one of the worst films I've ever seen in my life. There isn't any moment that I like in this film. Swapping Schwarzenegger for Bautista didn't pay off, as he's in the film for 2 minutes. Taking the main focus off Sly in favor of another actor was another bad decision to make. The dialogue is truly unlistenable. Yeah, it's completely just nonsensical and boring, and at some parts of the movie you don't even know what the hell is going on, and you don't know the characters' names because you just don't give a shit at that point. You've got some strange... You've got Chinese actors that maybe they're big in China, but I've never seen them before, and I can barely figure out what their relationships are to each other. You've got a basic bare-bones plot in which a member of Stallone's team, his security company's team, has been imprisoned in some secret prison called Hades, which might be in Asia somewhere, and its sole purpose is just so that the warden or zookeeper of this Hades prison can, extract information from his prisoners and use that to blackmail rich people and steal industrial secrets and etc. And it's really cheesy and stupid all the way through. Let's move on. 3 stars, October 9, 2019. I just love prison movies where they break out. This isn't really a prison movie. Even the actual setting for the prison, it just looks like a sci-fi movie set that was unused from another movie or discarded from another movie. And yeah, it's almost like this is straight up, it becomes a B-movie sci-fi film at one point. It starts out as some kind of action prison movie, and then there's a scene in which one of the characters is being tended to by some kind of floating robot creature. It's like some kind of robot with a laser, and it's got like a sci-fi looking laboratory around it, and the prison features some kind of holographic or simulated reality rec room that the prisoners get to spend time in if they complete their battles with each other. It's completely sci-fi stuff, and it diverts this whole film into a B movie or a C movie sci-fi film. And yeah, it's just put together to get people to enjoy the trailer and purchase this or rent this. I would imagine mostly in China. Let's move on. 3 stars. No. 1.5 stars. Glad to see Bautista in another movie. Other than that, the film is completely shit. Not surprised that Stallone's and 50 Cent's acting was utter crap as well. Same old, same old. Yeah. Everybody in this is just reading a few lines, and they're in a few boring scenes, and they don't do a whole lot. There's even an action scene in this featuring a couple of muscle cars. It's very boring, and imagine the cheapest way you could film some kind of car chase without actually spending any kind of money at all, and that's what they did. And that's supposed to be exciting, and it's just another diversionary bullshit scene in this movie. Again, just made to be edited into the trailer and to make the trailer look really cool, and it did make the trailer look cool, so mission accomplished on that. Half a star from September 8th, 2019. I signed up just to say that this sequel is just not the movie you need to see. This is just a disgrace from the first movie. Yeah, and let me take a look at my notes. You know, the film opens in Chechnya with some weird military action where some characters are trying to rescue some POWs from some prison in Chechnya, and then it diverts from that to Atlanta, where you see the offices of Stallone's security company, and then it diverts from there to Shanghai, For some reason in Shanghai, part of the film is set, and then it diverts from Shanghai to Bangkok, Thailand, and you're in Thailand now. And so I don't know if the secret prison's in Shanghai or it's in Thailand, but it's definitely somewhere in Asia. To be honest with you, I couldn't even finish this movie. I shut it off long before I got to the end. So if it's revealed where this actual secret prison is actually located geographically, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But the feeling I got was that it was someplace in Southeast Asia or in China. I'm just being honest. I shut this thing off after about 45 minutes or so. That's all I could withstand of it. It was enough to tell me it was completely rotten and that I was just hurting myself continuing. I'm sorry, I just couldn't do it. Couldn't make it to the end, but let's continue on. Half a star, August 28, 2019. Who in their right mind saw this movie and didn't hate it? This movie made from a budget of $20 million, but the visuals are awful and the action scenes are terrible. Don't even get me started on the story. Sylvester Stallone should retire before he embarrasses himself more with crappy movies like this. Yes, it's very embarrassing. This may actually be Stallone's worst movie. It is that embarrassing, and he's been in bad movies before, but he's out front and center on this one, participating in the cash grab. He should be ashamed of himself. He really should, at least in my opinion. 2 stars, August 23rd, 2019. A low-budget, straight-to-video sequel, Escape Plan 2 Hades, is a major departure from the original. While attending a bachelor party with his cousin, Breslin security consultant Shu is abducted and held prisoner at a black site called Hades. And while he works to escape, his team realize what's happened and starts looking for him. The plot doesn't make a whole lot of sense and is full of bad cliches. Sylvester Stallone takes a backseat to Chinese martial artist film star Huang Xiaoming, who really doesn't. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong, but like I said, the two main centerpiece stars of this are Chinese stars, and so that's why I say this is probably meant to be marketed to Chinese people. Off the top of my list, the prisoners have to fight each other for no apparent reason other than they get to go spend time in this rec room. That the only feature of this rec room that they get to spend 2 hours in if they win their fighting match is that they can sit down at a desk and use some crayons and some colored pencils to sketch things. That's supposed to be worth fighting each other or beating each other up for. I don't even know what to say to that. It's so stupid. It's one of the reasons I couldn't finish this and I actually shut it off. Let's see. What else do we have here? Yep. It becomes a sci-fi movie. And there are actually, in addition to a medical robot with a laser on it, there's also, that hovers by the way, there's also a scene in which two prisoners, they walk into a room and by some magical technology, shackles appear on their wrists. Yes, they just appear magically like something out of a Star Trek episode. They just materialize like they were beamed onto their wrists. And the movie expects us to take that seriously. So it's definitely a sci-fi movie by that point. But it doesn't claim it is. It's supposed to be in a real-world secret prison somewhere. But a secret prison that not only has floating robots with lasers, but it also has, some kind of technology where they can materialize steel shackles onto people. Very, very strange. Let's continue on. 3 stars from August 10th, 2019. A rushed and unnecessary sequel, but it's worth 94 minutes of your time. Really. I couldn't get past 40 minutes or so. I might have made it 45 minutes. I shut this puppy off. I don't even know how it ends. I did see that, Sylvester Stallone actually ends up in Hades at one point, but I didn't want to sit through it and find out what he does in there because everybody else in there just wasted my time talking to each other and trying to figure out the blueprints of the prison that I just didn't give a shit about because it looked like a cheap sci-fi movie set. It was all in one room, looked like it was made out of acrylic panels that were patterned together and might have originally been intended to show some kind of interior of a spaceship or something. I just couldn't get more than 40-something minutes into it, so good luck sitting through it. Half a star, July 21st, 2019. I hear your company steals scripts. Yeah, maybe the script was stolen from a B movie sci-fi channel type thing, because this is definitely one of those things. But I wouldn't even call it B movie. I would literally call this C or D movie status. May 2019. Half a star. Made it 20 minutes in, turned it off. Well, good for you, because I only made it about 40 and I just shut this puppy off. 5 whole stars, May 13. This is a decent movie, so is The First Escape Plan. I just don't believe you. Maybe the first one was enjoyable, but I'm sorry, I just don't believe you. 1 star, April 27. Part 2 was a bit god-awful. Had it been a little more like the original with a few added plot to it, it would have been great. But then they introduced this lame new guy and just totally ruined this movie. And seeing the price tag to make this film, I must say, epic major fail. Yeah, if this like actually consumed $20 million plus, around there, I'm wondering where the money went. Maybe all into Stallone's pocket, because, yeah, this is half a star and a movie was made and people got paid. I would imagine a lot of it went to Stallone, or maybe if Stallone and somebody else were the backers on this, they got the money. I don't know. Is this money laundering? Like, where did the money go? Because there isn't $20 million visible in this film at any point. Even sitting through this for half of the running time, I couldn't find any evidence that would convince me that that kind of money was involved. So let's move on. 1 star, March 23rd, 2019. This may have been one of the worst movies ever given to mankind. The fight scenes were awkward, the CGI was one big joke, and the whole movie was a waste of what may have turned into a fine franchise. I'll stop there and kind of disagree. I don't think so. I think the first film, it was only notable for Schwarzenegger and Stallone together. How do you make a franchise out of that? Are you just going to keep throwing them into prison scenarios again and again? I doubt that. So no, I completely disagree that this could be any kind of franchise, unless by franchise you mean just slapping the name Escape Plan onto the box covers of DVDs and Blu-rays and attempting to sell them off by making trailers. Wow, but let's continue. Most of the time I had no actual idea what the fuck was going on. Yeah, exactly. The acting didn't make sense, and the scene transitions was trash. The whole movie was some next level hot trash. This movie has destroyed my nice impression for the first movie, which was an actually nice movie. Yeah, and it kind of destroys a lot of people's impressions on Sylvester Stallone, I would imagine, because he should kind of be ashamed of himself at this. This is just straight up just a trick to get people to buy something in China. There's nothing here. This was strategically made to cut a trailer, definitely, no question about that. Half a star, February 28th, 2019. Probably one of the worst movies you will ever see. Poor plot and direction. I'd have rather slept the time spent watching this. Yeah, I'll agree. I shut it off after 40 minutes, but if I had actually been sleeping that time, it would have been better time spent, but of course I wouldn't be able to do this rotten review, at least not honestly. I had to see how bad this was before I just ripped it to pieces. 1 star, February 17th, 2019. Messy plot, messy CGI. Yeah, the CGI, the only CGI I really saw was like, they're materializing shackles on people's wrists. Maybe the robot floating there, the medical robot, that could have been CGI of one type or another. 3 stars, February 12th, 2019. 3 stars for this movie. Yeah, well, that ain't gonna cut it. 1 star, February 12th. Escape Plan 2 is a terrible watch. The movie does have decent star cast, but that's about all. The script, direction, plot, and even the action were a disaster, waste of time. 1.5 star, January 26th. Messy plotline with an unimaginative script with a cliffhanger which should just be left as such. The premise of this film is interesting, but the execution is of something that would be deemed passable by teachers in high school. Yeah, it's really bad. It's so bad, it's like high school kids could have wrote a better script. Yeah, I didn't, like another reviewer said, I didn't really know what the hell was going on. I knew two brothers were in prison, and one of them had some kind of industrial secret, and one of them was part of Stallone's security company. Beyond that, I didn't really know what the hell was going on. Part of the plot involved some kind of a prisoner that was also a chef or a cook in the prison, and he was allowed to actually go to the kitchen blindfolded, and he featured in the plan to escape to get the blueprints to the prison. It was so damn stupid. Almost the entire movie took place in one room, one big room with the prisoners. Ah, my God, it was bad. 1 star, January 19, 2019. This is a movie that manages to hold the audience's attention for the first 5 minutes of its runtime, and only the first 5 minutes of its runtime. Well, I'll stop there and say the first 5 minutes of the runtime, you're in some Chechnyan prison, and you don't know who the good guys are or the bad guys. It's really bizarre. Like, I guess there's one character who turns out to be a member of Sylvester Stallone's security team, and he's been sent into Chechnya to rescue some prisoners from a Chechnyan prison. And he actually appears to be one of the bad guys, but then later he's supposed to be one of the good guys. And I didn't know what the hell was going on in just in the first 5 minutes of the film. I couldn't tell who the good guys were, who the bad guys were. Why were we in Chechnya in a prison? And then I was confused. 5 minutes into this, I didn't know what the hell was going on. That's how bad this is. But let's continue. As soon as Stallone's character, no offense to the big guy, appears on screen, this movie descends into this boring, toneless, and barely comprehensible mess that suffers from its inability to properly balance its large cast. Batista especially was sidelined in such a way that his character could have easily been removed halfway through production without affecting. Yeah, well, as soon as Stallone showed up, I almost thought it was footage yanked from a previous film, because that's how just boring and pointless the first scene with Stallone was. It was like he was just reading his lines off a card somewhere, and there was nothing. There was no acting involved. I actually thought that. I thought that this was like using ripped off footage from the first movie, like unused footage. But no, it's actually new footage, and Stallone actually appears in new scenes, and he's definitely trying to go through the plot and read his lines, but it's so bad you think it's like footage ripped off from the first one, footage that was left on the cutting room floor, so to speak, but it wasn't, and that's why I say Stallone doesn't deserve the benefit of the doubt. In my opinion, he deserves to be roasted for this, because he's part of the scam to actually use the trailer to mismarket to probably Chinese audiences to make that money. He should be ashamed, in my opinion. 0.5 star, January 2019. Impressively shite. I'd recommend sandpapering your eyes instead, as it's likely to be more enjoyable, not a patch on the first movie, which itself was a crock. Yeah, the first movie wasn't like a masterpiece at all, but this one is just so disgustingly bad. You're better off just like sleeping or something. That's how bad it is. 2 stars, January 2019. Low budget breakout B movie, a rather sorry sequel. Extra star for the love of Stallone. No, Stallone should be embarrassed. I wouldn't give him an extra star for this. He should have a star removed for the shameless way that he participated in this cash grab. And it's not a B movie. This is below B movie standards. This isn't even worthy of being on the Sci-Fi Channel at 2 in the morning. Even watching some kind of infomercial for a juicer or something is better than this, a better use of your time. You'll learn more. This is like D- movie action. That's how rotten this is. Okay, here's a 5-star review, January 10. This film is actually decent. I'm going to have to disagree. This film, if you pulled this film from the bottom of the bargain bin at Walmart and paid more than $1 for it, you got ripped off. 4 stars, January 9th. Boy, oh boy, 4 whole stars. After watching the first movie, I was just so pumped up to see the sequel, Escape Plan 2 Hades, and I really enjoyed it. Although not as good as the first, Escape Plan 2 still does meet the criteria of a good prison break story. Impossible odds stacked against the hero, teamwork, and unbelievable timing. Look, this movie is not the best Sylvester Stallone film out there, and I get that, but you can't deny that it still does deliver in terms of thrills. I'm sorry, are you related to Stallone in some way? Because I know that's not him writing this, but it's like somebody that's like really close to him, or rides on his reputation, because this is shameful, and I wouldn't want to be around somebody that like pushed off this type of material as being something worthy of money. It's really shameful, and so I don't know where you're coming from with those 4 stars. 1 star, January 9th. Such a disappointment after a decent predecessor. It's not even 1 star. This is 0.5 star. 2 stars, January 6th. Disappointing. Too many holes in the movie. Action sequences are unrealistic and have been used millions of times before. Story is weak, moves very fast without really explaining anything. The cast is not capable of pulling anything major off. Yeah, you don't know what the hell's going on half the time. I mean, you know very little at any given time because it's just a whole lot of confusing nonsense going on. Yes, they are in some kind of secret prison. That's about the only thing I figured out of this movie, and I shut it off halfway through. January 5, 2 stars. I still prefer the first movie. This one seems very unrealistic to me. It wasn't bad, just a little difficult for me to accept. That being said, I felt there was a tee up for another film in the franchise. If so, I would watch it. Yes, I believe there is an Escape Plan 3. Oh, but man, how can you go lower than this? They should probably title it Escape Plan 3 Going Even Lower because, yeah, it's going to be hard to top this for the rottenness. How could you do this worse? Maybe you could just have Stallone just sit there and do a cameo appearance and then have high school kids do the rest of it. I mean, I'm just kind of wondering. But I know it's out there. I don't even want to look at it. This one has scared me off of this franchise for permanent. It's permanently scared me off of it. January 4, half a star. Missed this movie. The cover is deceiving considering Stallone is only in the movie for about 15 minutes. Yeah, probably. The acting is subpar. The CGI looks as though it was made on an iPhone third-party app, and the story is ridiculously bad. There are so many lens flares that if you are prone to seizures, I would straight up skip this movie. I'm talking lens flares outside, lens flares inside, lens flares from desk lamps. There are lens flares inside of vans. J.J. Abrams called and said, whoa, that's too much. You know, they've got a point there. I think the lens flares were to cover up how cheap the sets were. You know, it's a lighting effect, a very low budget lighting effect that can cover up flaws if it's done right, and I think that's why that was in this film. 1 star, December 28, 2018. Do not waste your time on this one. It is awful. The first movie was okay, but not this one. I agree. 2.5 stars, December 26, 2018. Oakish Stallone movie on Netflix, not released in cinemas. I don't think this is on Netflix. Maybe it was back in 2018. It isn't now. It's on Amazon Prime right now as of December of 2019. And if you actually, you know, you had paid for this, if you had paid even $1 for this, you paid too much. So I guess if you already have Amazon Prime and you just absolutely have nothing else to do with your bandwidth, go ahead and watch this. But, you know, don't say I didn't warn you. 1 star, December 11th, 2018. Wasn't expecting much, didn't get much. The dude who played Kimbrel was terrible. Stallone is not the actor he once was, and that says something. Dave Bautista was the shining point of this film. Dave Bautista did very little, unless you count him tending bar and then shooting some guys with a shotgun, and yeah, that was his big thing. That's what I saw in the first 45 minutes. I think Dave Bautista by himself in an action movie is just really bad. It's rotten by itself. In my opinion, he just sucks. Yes, he looked good as Drax or Dax or whatever in Guardians of the Galaxy, but that's his high point for me. Everything else he's been in, he just looks like shit, and he doesn't look like he belongs in anything. He looks like he belongs just in the wrestling ring, in my opinion. But in any case, he's in this. And I know at the beginning of this, I called him Juan Batista. I know it's Dave Batista, but wow, everything I see him in is just bad. And, you know, I saw him in the Blade Runner 2049, and he was the worst part of it in that, too. I just don't care for him in anything except Guardians of the Galaxy. He was good in that. But let's move on before I get too sidetracked. December 3rd, 2018, half a star. Wow, what can I say? Sly is still my idol, but what a terrible film. The CGI electricity effects look like they belong in the early 80s, and that is no exaggerating. Remember Big Trouble in Little China's electricity? Picture that, only worse, and in 2018, no excuse. The plot and storyline are all over the place. The characters are hard to follow. The best part about this is the martial arts from one of the main characters. I'm sorry, I have to even disagree on that. The martial arts that I saw, at least in the first 45 minutes of this film, were shit as well. If it was by some famous Chinese martial artist, well, he didn't look too good. He looked like he was barely paid to do what he was doing. So let's move on. 3 stars, November 30, 2018. Pretty enjoyable, but very unrealistic. Did not have a great interest in the characters. Yeah, that's an understatement. This is a sci-fi movie. It gets into being a sci-fi movie. Low budget, extremely low budget sci-fi movie. Yeah, one prisoner inside the prison who was also a character in the Chechnya prison break part of the movie at the beginning. He somehow knows everything that's going on behind the scenes, and he's used to explain what's going on with the warden and the prisoners and their backstories and all this. How he knows all this stuff, I don't know, but it's like total exposition dump, and he just magically knows everything that's going on inside the prison behind the scenes, even though he hasn't been there very long either. It's just like the least of this movie's flaws, but I thought that I would bring that up because it's on my list. Half a star, one of the worst ever. Half a star, wow, what a stinker. 1 star, it's got to be one of the worst movies I have ever watched. Yeah, I shut it off after 40 minutes or so, so yeah. Um, let's see, 3 whole stars. It's not awesome, but I don't think it's that bad. Maybe my week has been worse. Yeah, being threatened with a lawsuit is bad. Yeah, so somebody's saying that this was better than being threatened with a lawsuit. I'll agree with that because you can shut this off. You just can't shut off a lawsuit exactly, can you? Nope. 1 star. November 10th, 2018. Ha 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 ha. That was amazing. So laughably bad. It entertained me to no end. Don't watch unless you're a fan of train wrecks. I'll disagree. It's not laughably bad. I'm sorry. I mean, I wish I would have laughed, but at least in the first 40 to 45 minutes, there's nothing interesting enough, nothing funny enough or goofy enough to make me laugh, just make me want to shut it off because I just can't stand to sit through it any longer. So my recommendation is don't watch it. Even if you're drunk, just don't watch it. You're just going to have a headache the next day and be miserable at watching this. November 9th, half a star, unequivocally an absolute horseshit. And yes, I'll agree with that. There's not anything else on my list that I can add to this. It is complete horseshit. They should be ashamed, you know. I wouldn't say the other actors should be ashamed because maybe they needed the work, but Sylvester Stallone didn't need the work. He just wanted the cash grab too. Maybe he was largely responsible for this cash grab. Complete shameless ripoff. And 14% on the audience score. If it got 4% on the audience score, it would be fair. That's how bad this is. 8% on the tomato meter, completely fair. Hell, it could be 0. There are other films on Rotten Tomatoes with a 0 on the critics meter. I'm not sure why this isn't 0 because it should be a big fat 0. In any case, I'll see you on the next episode of Rotten Reviews.